Vite is a build tool and development server designed specifically for modern web development. It helps with fast and efficient building and bundling of JavaScript applications.
Hey folks, my name is Asran. I help developers to learn front-end technologies. You should also check out my Instagram where I post tips, tricks, code snippets related to web technologies. So talking about learning objectives, what we are going to learn in this tutorial is we will start with what is Vite, the very basics, and then we will move on to why to use it, what makes it fast, and what are the reasons that you should pick Vite as compared to any other front-end tool. And then moving on, we will learn about what are the features that Vite offer, and then how to create a static JavaScript project using Vite, how to initialize Vue, React, and Svelte projects using the predefined templates. Also, how to integrate Tailwind into your JavaScript and React.js applications, how to use environment variables in Vite, how to deploy your Vite projects to GitHub, Netlify, and Vercel. Lastly, how to configure your Vite.js projects. So all of this in this just one single video. And if you want to skip to a specific part, for example, you have the basic idea of Vite, but you want to learn about configuration, so you can simply jump to the configuration part and skip the rest of the tutorial. Or if you want to learn about deployment, so you can jump to the deployment section. So with that, let's get started. Vite is a tool that helps you to create boilerplates for your projects blazing fast. You may have used Create React App before. If you're a React developer, Vite can be used as a replacement for your Create React app. That is because Vite is quick to set up, it takes a few seconds. Blazing fast reload regardless of the app size. Support for multiple frameworks such as Vue, Svelte, etc. Out of the box support for TypeScript, JSX, and CSS, and many more features. In terms of technical knowledge, this course is for beginners. Having a little understanding of technologies such as Create React App, React, Vue, and Angular is more than enough. To use Vite, you need to have the Node version of at least 4.18. However, this depends on the templates. Some require a higher version of Node.js, but for most of them, you can go for 14.18. And keep in mind that this minimum requirement of 14.18 is at the time of making of this video. Maybe in the future, it may change to some other version. And another example is, let's say React.js released a new version and the minimum node requirement is version 15. So in that case, you will need version 15 and not 14.18. Vite is known for being super fast, especially when you compare it with Create React App. That is because Create React App will download many dependencies including Webpack, which takes a lot of time. Comparing that to Vite, it takes a few seconds because Vite only makes the project structure. To install dependencies, you have to do npm install. But the good thing is with Vite, there are only few dependencies, making the process quick, which means no Webpack. We have seen bundlers like Webpack and Vercel helping us with our projects. However, as our project size increases, we notice delays when spinning up our development server or hot reloading. That is because of the increasing dependencies resulting in the bundler doing the heavy lifting and taking the time to spin up servers or hot reload them. This greatly affects the developer's productivity. Vite makes very good use of the browser features such as the native JavaScript modules in the browser to skip the bundler part and use the browser support to make the process fast. To understand this more, here is how it works in Create React App. So in this case, everything is bundled together and served to the browser, and by everything, I mean all of the routes and modules. This is very time consuming and makes hot reloading very slow. On the other hand, when working with Vite, only the required code is served and processed. Vite uses the dynamic import and only reloads the route and modules that needs to be reloaded. This technique makes Vite project fast regardless of the app size. So now that you have the basic idea of what Vite is, what are the features of Vite, and what makes it different or fast as compared to the other front-end tools like Create React App, let's dive into the hands-on and see how can we create projects using Vite, how can we deploy them to GitHub, to Vercel, and to Netlify, and how can we configure our Vite projects. Alright, let's talk about how to create a static server, just a simple plain JavaScript and HTML website using Vite, first thing first that we need to do is to add Vite in as a project dependency. So for that, what we need to do is npm install -- save dev Vite. All right, we have Vite installed, and if we go to the project.json, we can see it here. So with that, let's create an index.html file here and add something here. So for example, hello world. Save this, and now we want to start the server. So for that, we need to go to package.json. This should be add scripts. And in the scripts, for now, we only need one script, that is dev, which stands for development. So this is to start a development server. So for that, we will do Vite dev, and that's it. So now let's try this. And for that, npm run dev, and our server is started. So let's see that in the browser. All right, we have our server started and running. And as you can see this here in the browser, let me also open the inspect elements and maybe console. So yeah, with that, so we have our server started. So next thing is let's try to add JavaScript here. So let me make main.js, and for now let's simply go with console log hello world, save that, and then go back to index.html. And then here, one thing to keep in mind is to make things simple and to remove extra details, I am not adding a lot of tags that I need to do when I'm actually working on a project. For example, head tags, body tags, those HTML tags, etc. That is to make things simple and to remove extra details. But when you're working on an actual project, you need to add those details or add those extra tags, not extras, add those compulsory tags, necessary tags. So with that, next thing is we need to add script. So you know this, that in JavaScript, in HTML, if we want to link a JavaScript file, we go with the script. So here the usual way is this main.js, but we're not going to do it with this one. And also there is one attribute that we need to add here. Otherwise this we do need few things that will not work. Let me show you that right now before we fix this and add that one attribute that we need. So here this works right now, as we can see, hello world. But let's say that we have multiple files here. So let's say file.js, and we export something from this file, maybe an object, and we call this, we have a value inside that is dev, and save this. So save this, and then let me resize this a little bit. So yeah, we save this, and then go to main and try import file from /file. We save this, and you can see cannot use import statement outside a module. So why is that? That is because this module import will not work unless we set the type to module for this script, and that is very simple and easy thing to do. So type equals to module, save this, and now we go back to the main.js and add console.log file and save this, and now you can see this works. So we have our value equals to dev. So that type equals to module makes it work. And another way is, even if you do not want to go with this one, there is also another way, just to show you. So that is import /main.js, or maybe just main.js. Oops, yeah, that will not work. So /main.js, and now this is behaving the exact same way as it was when we add source like this. So both ways work. Basically this portion between this section between the script starting and the ending tags, this is all about this section is for JavaScript. So we can either add JavaScript here, or we can add our JavaScript here. So both ways work. But for now, let me add it here, and then eventually we can move out of that to the main. And also I do not need the file, so let me delete the file for now. And let me also remove it from here. All right, so that is about how you can add, how you can connect a JavaScript file with your index.html. So that is about JavaScript and index.html, but what about CSS? So for that, let's make something here with the name star.css and h1 here, and then here color equals to blue, not blue, tomato. For some reason, I like tomato using tomato color in tutorials. And then go back to index.html and something we already know and been using this. So link CSS and star. Save this, and we can see now this is working. If I now go to sources, not sources, if I go to elements and hover on this, click on this, you can see the style color tomato, and then here we have star.css. So this is that style. But yeah, so this is to add style, to add CSS to your project. But if you have worked with React.js, you may know the concept of modules, like CSS modules. And the concept of CSS modules is sometimes we may have a lot of CSS classes, and since we are using we have reusable components, and we are doing a lot of imports, exports, etc., we might end up with similar classes, and that might give us conflict. So to fix that, we have a concept known as CSS modules. But if you already know about that, so nothing much to explain here. And so let's see how can we do that. So for that, style.module.css, and then here I am going to copy the code from style.css, paste it here, save this, and then go back to my index.html. And then here I cannot do like this module.css. This works, but this is not what we want. For example, let me show you what I mean by this works, but this is not how we want it. So rather than h1, we give it title. We save this, and then go back here, and then give this class equals to title. You see, this is not working. But if I go here and then add dot title here, save this, and then go back to HTML and remove dot module, and we save this, now this works. So which means that it works for style.css, but it does not work for style.module.css. Okay, so why then we are using style.module? So let's talk about that and let's fix that. So we will comment this code and then go to the JavaScript section, and here import classes from style.module.css. And keep in mind, classes is not a keyword. This could be anything depending on whatever name you want to give it to. For example, I can also give it to styling. I can give it the name styling or style classes or anything. Anything works until unless that is not a reserved keyword. So with that, save this and then do console.log classes. And when we save this and we go to the console, we can see this here that it has this object here, title, and this value here. So what exactly that is? So that is this title, and here this title stands for the class name, and then we have a unique sequence, and then the line number. So this one stands for the line number. Here is another example. So body, and maybe anything here because we are not using this blue. Save this, and now here we have another value, another property, body, that is equal to body, the class name, a unique sequence, and then the line number, that is 5. All right, and now the question is how to use it. So unfortunately, we cannot use it like this. As you can already see, we have the title, but this is not working here. And like one way is to, like, for example, if I refresh this, if I keep refreshing this, it's always the unique number is always same for the title. So one way is to like if I copy this and if I paste this here, let's see if that works. Save this, and yeah, it worked. But when we are making an application, we cannot do this. This is not an applicable solution. We cannot save this, console log the classes, and then check for that, and then copy that, and then paste them here. This is not something that we need. This is not something that will work. So what we need to do here is we remove the class here from here, and we can add the class dynamically in using JavaScript. So for that, document.querySelector, and then we select our h1 tag, and then class name equals to classes.title, and we save this, and we have it here, hello world. Now if I go to the elements, if I go click on this, you can see here we have that dynamically generated class name, and here we have style. So if I click on style, it gives me this style, which is this style.module.css. So that is how you can dynamically generate classes, class names, and then add them to your HTML and connect them with your HTML. So of course you need JavaScript for this, but that is how it works. And yeah, so that is the basic idea, and that is a very basic server. Now we can copy all of this except for the first import main. Copy this, remove this, and then here we can just simply do source. That would be main.js, and save this. Go back to console. We have hello world. That works perfect. And then just simply add these two things, and of course import should be at the top. And let's just do some refactoring. All right, now this is working. So this is our very basic static server, just a simple JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Now you may be wondering if there is a quick way to start with this project, like if there is a template to spend less time on configuration and starting with the boilerplate. So yes, the answer is yes, there is a template that you can use, and let's see how we can use the Vite CLI to generate something similar to this. So for that, let's move to the next section where we can talk about how can we use CLI to generate a similar template without starting from scratch. All right, we have our new project here, and this is a completely empty folder, nothing here, as you can see here, and the project name is vanilla.-vite. So what we need to do here is we type npm create vite and enter this. Now it's going to ask us a few questions. So first thing is project name. So since we are already in the project, we made a project. So if I go with Vite project, it will create a new folder for us. But what I want is, I do not want a new folder. Rather, what I want is to create a Vite to create the project inside this folder here. So I will remove this, and I will just add dot. So dot means that it should be generated in this folder without creating a new folder. And then here we have the options of which project we want to. We will discuss some other options, but for now we are going to go with vanilla and JavaScript, and that's it. So we have that same project generated here. And first thing first that if we need to do is, you can see we have the dev dependency Vite, but there is no node modules. So which means that if I try these commands, this will not work. As you can see, npm run dev, this does not work. And the reason for that is we do not have the node modules. This dependency is not installed. So let's simply and quickly install this, npm install. So now if I do it again, npm run dev, this will work now, as you can see here. But before opening this, let's get a good idea of what files we have. So index.html, something we had previously, we created from scratch, and then here script type module source main.js, exactly the way that we did. And then we have the main folder here, which is importing styles. So it's not using the modules, but still this we also did something like this. If you want to convert it to modules, we will be doing classes and then style.module, and then we also have to fix the name here in here. But this should be from. but for now, let's not do this because you already got the idea. So yeah, and if we have to do this, we have to make multiple changes here. So then we have the index.html, and then we have the public folder which has the assets. So in this case, it's the SVG of the Vite. So let's start the server, and we already have started this, but all right. So here is the server, and this is the server generated using the boilerplate or the template. So that is how you can start with your boilerplate using the template that is given to us by Vite, and feel free to make any changes depending on your project. So that is it for this section. With that, let's move on to the next section on how can we skip all of those questions we had. That was the project name and the type, etc. And if there is a way to quickly generate this project or the boilerplate or the template without going through all of those questions. And yes, there is a way. So let's learn that. So what we need to do is we type npm create Vite and then my JS app, then -- template. Now, if you're using npm 7 plus, version 7 plus, you do need some extra dashes here. If you're using npm 6.x, then it is fine. You do not need these dashes. But if you're on version 7 or above, you do need these extra dashes. And then template, and then the template should be vanilla. And we have our setup here. So let's open this and see what we have inside. Code my JS app, and here you can see we have the exact same setup. So we just skipped all of those questions. Similarly, we are going to talk more about this, but if in case, let's say you want to go for make a Vue.js application. So for that, npm create Vite my Vue app, again extra dashes, and then template Vue. And let's see this. So maybe just go inside this in the terminal, and let's see. We have index package.json, etc. Let's see the package.json here, and you can see here it has Vue in it. So that is how you can use the templates without going through all of those questions, by just using some extra arguments in the command line. All right, now we already know about the template CLI commands. So let's try to use that for making a React.js application. So for that, I again have a new folder and a new project, and that is a completely empty project with the name React-Vite. So what I need to do here is, one way is to go with npm create Vite, but what I will do here is npm create Vite -- and -- template again. Notice that I will add a dot here, otherwise this should be like my app or something. And then last thing here is, let me add a dot, and then the last thing here is the template should be React. And let's see. Yes, we have the package, and this is in React application. And if I do npm install, so this is the last step, and once we are done with this, we have our React application all set up. And notice how easy it is to create a React application with Vite. Unlike create React app, which takes almost a whole decade to create a basic project. So we have this all set up, and this will not work because this is from the previous project that we created. But let's try npm run dev, and let's see what we have here. And yeah, we have our Vite plus React application. So that is how simple it is to make our basic React application. So yeah, with that, let's move on towards understanding how we can integrate Tailwind. We are going to first try with the simple vanilla JS application, the static application, and then we are going to move back to this project that we just created and add Tailwind CSS to this one as well. So let's open that other project that we created previously. So this is our project, and what we need to do here is we first need to start the dev server so that I can refresh this, and here you can see this. So to add Tailwind here, what we need to do here is first thing first, we will stop the server for now, clear this, and then here we need to add a bunch of things here. So first thing is npm install. We basically need to install a bunch of dependencies. So of course Tailwind CSS, and then post CSS, and then auto prefixer. So let's install these, and once we install these dependencies, then we need to do npx Tailwind CSS init, which stands for initialize init p. So this adds this tailwind.config.cjs. Now we are almost set up. Another thing that we need to do is, so this is something you can get from the Tailwind CSS website, but we need to import the Tailwind components, the Tailwind classes. So go to the style.css or any of your CSS class, and then add these Tailwind base, Tailwind components. There should be base, Tailwind components, and then Tailwind utilities, and that is it. So now we are done with this. Then it's almost set up. So let's see if this works. npm run dev. Notice that we have a warning, and then there was slight change in the structure. Let's see if the CSS components of Tailwind is working. So for that, I need to go to the main.js because we have something here, and then let me try class equals to text dot maybe 2xi, and save this, and you can see it did not work. Even if I go for 6xi, it's not working. Maybe I can try bg-black and text-white. Nothing works. And why is that? The reason for that is, if I again start the server, there is this warning: the content option in your Tailwind CSS configuration is missing or empty. So let's go to the Tailwind config. So this content should have all the files where we want to apply our styles. So let's add that. For now, we have this index.html, and we don't have anything here, but we will also include this file. So index.html, and then for now, it depends on how you want to use this, but for now I am going to include all of my JavaScript files. So /static.js, and save this. And the moment I save this, you can see the change happen here. So hello Vite with the background, black background and white text. And if I go back here, and then if I change this to, let's say 3xi, this works, but 6xi looks pretty good. Maybe add some padding just to show you. So px4 and py2, and we can see it has padding. So yeah, that is how it works, and we have successfully integrated and added Tailwind CSS to a vanilla static website app. So with that, let's move on to a React.js application, and let's see how we can add it there as well. It's almost exactly the same, but let's see how we can do that. All right, back to our React.js application created with Vite, npm run dev, and refresh this, and we have this. So let's see how we can integrate Tailwind into this. So for that, again, I'm going to stop the server for now, and then again install all those packages. So Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. Just a side note, this documentation is already available on the Tailwind CSS official website, so you can also check it out from there as well. And then we have this installed, so let's also go with Tailwind CSS init-p, which will install the Tailwind config file here. And again, we need to add our configuration. We need to add the files that we want to be included for the classes. So here it's going to be index.html, and then another one is going to be source / static, and then static dot, and then we have to include multiple extensions here. So that is JS, TS, JSX, and TSX, depending on what extensions we are using. So this one is all about JSX, so we can remove TypeScript extensions. And even to be more specific, we can also just include .gsx, but it depends on what are the extensions you're using. But this basically means that go to the source and then maybe something that exists here, or maybe something that exists in a file, and then .gsx. Static JSX means that anything .gsx, so that includes app.jsx as well as main.jsx. So with that, let's one more thing that we need to do is to import the classes for the index to the index.css. So go to the index.css and then again Tailwind base, Tailwind components, and then Tailwind utilities, and that is it. Save this, and now let's start the server. npm run dev. We see the change in the images, so that means that something happened here. We have no utility classes were detected in your source file, so let's see what exactly is happening here. This should be the global pattern in your Tailwind, so invalid. So maybe let's fix this, and that is what it wants us to do. Stop the server, start it again, and no utility classes were detected. Let's see if this works. If it does not, then maybe we can just remove this one. So maybe add it here again for the h1 bg-black. Let's see if it works. Yep, it is working. So text white and text dash 6xl or maybe 5xl. And yep, that is how we can add our HTML classes. And yep, that is how we can add our Tailwind classes. And maybe I can go to my index.css, maybe so remove the padding, so maybe remove all of these values, and we can then just go with Tailwind classes. But that is how it works. And then that other warning, you can ignore that for now. So yep, that is how you can integrate Tailwind CSS into your React.js application. So with that, let's move on towards the next section. All right, let's understand how environment variables works in Vite. And to do so, let's first understand the theory behind it. In Vite, there are multiple environment variables and files. For example, a simple .env file loads in all cases, and a .env.local also loads in all cases but is ignored by Git. Similarly, .env.mode only loads in a specific mode. In this case, the mode stands for development or production. And our .env.mode.local also loads in a specific mode but is ignored by Git. So let's see that in action. So for example, we create this new file .env. Now this file is the file that environment variables that we have in this file will load in all cases. For example, if I type something here, and also to keep in mind that whenever you are adding in environment variables, you need to have a prefix that is Vite_test. Otherwise this will not work or will give you unexpected issues. The next thing is we have this another environment variable that is env.local. There is not much difference between this .env and .env.local except that this .env.local will be ignored by Git. So for example, if you have some sensitive data, let's say some API key or something similar, so you can add all of that here. For example, here we can add db name and then something here, and then Vite _ db pass, and then also add something here, password, and save this. Now the question is, how can we use this in our JavaScript? For example, if you have used Node.js, so it's in Node.js, it's something like this: node_process_node_env. But in case of Vite, the way to use it is import.meta.env. And if I save this and I go back to my console, and in the console I can see these things here. So let me resize my window a little bit. So here I can see Vite test Aslan, and then Vite db name something, and Vite db pass something. Now, and I also have some other variables, that is dev, mode, prod, etc. Let's talk about that in a second, but in this case, if I commit this and push this to GitHub, this Vite underscore test will be sent to GitHub and committed by Git, but the Vite underscore db name and Vite underscore db pass will be ignored because that exists in this env.local. Let's talk about these dev, mode, prod, SSR, etc. So these are some properties, and we can use that to get an idea. For example, if I want to see that if this is a development server or a production server, and based on that decision, we want to make some decision. So we can do something like this. So let's say we do console log server is running in, and then import.meta.env.mode. I believe this is mode. Yes, but this should be mode. And save this, so we can see server is running in development. Similarly, we can also do something like if we want to, let's say, check that if based on like the mode, we want to make a specific decision. If it's a development server, we have a specific scenario and we want to make a specific decision, and if it's a production server, we want to make another specific decision. So for that case, import.meta.env.dev, and then console.log, this is dev server. And also let me do console log import.meta.env and save this. So like you can see this here, this is dev server. That is because this is true because we are in the dev server. Open this, and in this case dev is true because we are using Vite dev. If we do Vite build, so that will be production, and then in that case mode will be production and this prod will be true, and this one will be false. So these are exactly opposite. When dev is true, prod is false, and when prod is true, dev is false. So similarly, the base URL is the base URL, and SSR stands for server-side rendering. So this is pretty simple. Now let's move on to another example. So let's say we have env.prod.local, and this should be .env. And let's say that let me see why this did not work. env.prod.local. So maybe we can change this for now for testing. We can change this to .dev, and let's see this. So Vite underscore sum underscore key equals to Aslan, and let's test this now. So if I open this, do we have it? Do we have it? Nope, we don't have it. Let's remove this and then check this again. All right, this is probably because we are writing it wrong. So this should be env.development, and let's see this again. And now we have it. Vite underscore sum underscore key equals to Aslan. And similarly, if I change this to .local and then save this again, refresh this, this also still works. Vite underscore sum underscore key equals to Aslan. Now, if I change this to production and close all of these messages and save this, now in this case, we still don't have anything. That is because this will work for the production, but this does not work for environment variables. And it's to get these values, it's the same as import.meta.env and underscore something. So I'll maybe change it here, Vite underscore sum underscore key, but this will not work for production. So let's revert it back to development. And once we save this, refresh this, we have some key here. We have Aslan here. That is the value of Vite underscore sum underscore key. So the way to get it is the same as the way to get anything from .env. The only difference is the file name. So that is how it works for the different modes. Now talking about loading priorities, an env variable for a specific mode takes a higher priority than a generic one. So to show you that, for example, we have this here, and I copy this and do this again here, but in this case, I change this value to khatak and save this. Now, let's see what we get here. We still get Aslan. That is because this one will take and has higher priority as compared to this one or this one, because this is mode specific. So the mode specific variables takes higher priority than the generic ones. Moreover, variables added to the script have the highest priority. For example, if I go to my package.json and then here I type something, let's say Vite, we again go with the same key, Vite underscore sum underscore key, and set this to khatak dev and save this and stop the server, start it again. So let's see what we get there. So now we get khatak dev. That is because this one has the highest priority, and then the mode specific environment variables gets the higher priority, and then the lowest priority is for these generic environment variables. So that is how you can use environment variables in Vite, and all of the different modes and all of the different priorities for the variables in Vite. So with that, let's move on towards the next section. Alright folks, let's talk about how to deploy our applications. And in this section, we are going to talk about how to deploy it to GitHub, how to deploy it to Netlify, and also how to deploy it to Vercel. So let's start with GitHub. The first thing that you need to do is you need to have a project, and in this case I again created a new template, and this is a vanilla JavaScript template, which means that this is a static website. So first thing first, I am going to do is I will do npm install to install all the repositories, other dependencies. And once we are done with this, before we move on towards deployment section, there is one thing I want to talk about, and that is how to make a build. So for that, what you need to do is, if I go to package.json, there you can see there is a build and a preview command. So build stands for making the production version. So if I do npm build, you can see a dist folder. So if I want to check this, so what I need to do is I need to do npm run preview, and this will start the server for us. So if I open this, you can see this server and you can see this website, something we already know and we did this before. So let's get back. And one other thing is, let's say I do not want this 4173 port. So what I can do here is I can give it a custom port, that is port 8080, save this, and then again do npm run preview, and this will give us the local host with 8080. So that is how to test it. So once you're done with testing your website locally, testing in the build version, then the next part is to deploy it on GitHub pages. So for that, what I need to do is I have to make a GitHub repository, and for that I will go to my GitHub and there create a new repository here. So maybe go here and then click on new repository, and then I will name this Vite GitHub and select myself here, nothing to do here, and then click on create repository. So we have a simple repository. What I need next is I need to push other code to GitHub. This is pretty simple. These are pretty simple steps. You already know this, I assume. So I will create the console and then initialize Git and then add all of these. And then last thing is initial commit. All right. Now the thing is, if this was, so in this case, this is going to be Vite-GitHub, but which means that this is going to be eventually khatak.github.io/Vite-GitHub. So this will be our repository. This will be our deployed website. But if this was not the case, and we had something like this, khatak.dev.github.io, which means that this repository was named as khatak dev. So in that case, we do not need to do anything. But in this case, this is going to be Vite-GitHub. So that is the repository name. So for that, we need to also change our path so that when it uploads and when we deploy the server, when we deploy the website, it is deployed in Vite-GitHub. So for that, what we need to do is to have Vite config file. So that is vite.config.js. And then here I need to do define config here, and then export default define config. This is a function, and then this function accepts objects. So first thing here is base. So base stands for the base path where this path will be. So in this case, by default, the base path is this, which means that nothing, just a simple slash. So the reason that you do not need to modify it if this is /dev/dev, so that will be eventually this one /dev.github.io, so nothing here, and that is the default part. But in this case it is going to be Vite-GitHub, so which means that we have to modify our base path to make sure that everything works. So what I need to do is this should be Vite-GitHub and also a /. So save this, and if I now again do npm run build, and let's see this. So npm run preview, and now you can see this, that the path is totally different. So it's Vite-GitHub. So let's go there. Now here is the problem. We have the JavaScript logo working, but the Vite logo is not working. So a quick fix for this is, and this is something to keep in mind when you have in a different path. And so this currently it has a relative path, and this will not work because the reason for this is if I click on this and open this in a new tab, this is basically not using Vite-GitHub here. So the issue here is the wrong path. And the fix for this is if I do Vite-GitHub and then /, now this works. So to fix this, what we can do is we can make this an absolute path like this and save this, restart our server, make the build again, and then again do preview. And let's see this now. So now this works. So that is to keep in mind that it should be absolute path, not the relative path. The reason that JavaScript logo works is that because we are using import here. We just tested our build version locally, so everything works good. So let's stop this, git add, and then we just updated the path, and then git push origin main. Git push origin main. Whoops, git push origin main. Yeah, this is because we did not copy this. So we have to set this and then git push origin main. Now let's go back here, refresh this, and we have our project here. So let's talk about how can we now make a GitHub page here. So go to settings and then go to pages, and then here we are gonna go with GitHub Actions. And here in this case, since this is a static HTML file, so we will go with this option, static HTML configure. Now here we have to do a couple of things here, and if in case you forget this, you can always get this in the whatever changes I'm making, you can always get this from Vite documentation. But what we need to do here is this is just setting pages and uploading artifacts and all those things. But the thing here is this is a Vite project, which means that there are some dependencies. If this was a simple HTML project, then we do not need to make any changes here, but this is a Vite project and it has some configuration, basically npm install and Vite build and Vite preview that you can see here. So we need to add these things. So for that, what we need to do is, let me zoom this a bit so that we can see this, maybe just a little bit more. And yeah, so what we need to do here is we need to add a few more actions here. So steps here. So for that, I will add a new name, and this one is going to be setup node. And then here it is going to be uses actions / setup - node at v3. And then the next thing is with so the with basically means that with which node version I want it to be. So this is going to be 18, and then cache equals to this one is npm. Then the next thing is we have install dependencies. So once we set up our node version, we need to install dependencies. And the command for this is npm install. And then once we install dependencies, so something we already did in our local server. So then the next thing is we need to build the dependencies, build the project. So this one is going to be build project, a build. So the name is basically the action name, what a step name, what we are doing, and it could be anything. It's up to you how you define it. And then this one is run npm run build. And I believe that is it. So yeah, we need to build it, and then we need to set up pages, etc. Now, one other thing is, if I go back to the server, if I go back to the Visual Studio Code, when we do npm run build, it makes the project in the dist folder. So we need to also change that here. So upload entire repository path is going to be /dist, and that's it. So then we save this, We don't do anything here because this is just a test file, and save this, and then go to actions. And here we have the action. So let's go there and let's see what's happening. And click on deploy. It's going to take a few seconds. So I will fast forward this. All right, it looks like something is not working, and let's see that. So setup node, unable to find node version 18, for platform Linux. Now I know what the problem is. So we made a small mistake here. So let's go back to the GitHub Actions workflow and then static.yaml. And the problem here is, let me edit this. The problem here is this is not no 18, this is just 18. Otherwise it will treat it as 18, and that is not what version we want. So save this, and then let's go back to GitHub Actions, update static.yaml, and then click on deploy, and let's wait for this. All right, the deploy has been successful. So let's go back to the actions and click on this update actions, and then click on this link. And here we can see our web page, and this is successfully working. And we also have the Vite logo as well as the JavaScript logo. That is how you can deploy your Vite application to GitHub using GitHub Actions and GitHub Pages. So now let's move on towards the Netlify version.
All right, let's talk about how to deploy our code to Netlify, just like we did it on GitHub. And for this, I made a new project, and this is again a template and a static JavaScript project. So for that, what we need to do first is I have to initialize Git, and I have to commit all those files. So initialize, maybe initial commit, and whoops, I have to put quotes. All right, with that, let me go to my GitHub and make a new repository. I will call this no template Khadak dev, and this is named as Netlify Vite or Vite Netlify. Let me see what name I have here. So this is Vite Netlify. So Vite-Netlify, and create repository. All right, copy this and simply push the code. So this is git, not git, just paste this and then git push origin main. All right, so we simply push the code. So this was the very simple step. Refresh the page and we can see things here. All right, so for the next thing, what we need to do is we need to add Netlify CLI. This is the npm package that we need. Let me zoom this a bit. So this is the package that we need, and I think I have already installed this, but let me try installing this again. So and keep in mind that you have to install this. I'm going to install this with -g, which means that it's a globally installed, so I can access this anywhere. So for that, it's npm install Netlify -CLI-C, and this might not work, so I am gonna do with sudo command, and I will add my password, and this will install this. So let's wait for the installation, and once installation completes, we can move on with the next steps. All right, it is installed, so let's try Netlify init. But before that, what you need to do is you need to do Netlify login. If I just do Netlify, it will probably give us commands. So I will have to do sudo Netlify because I installed this using sudo. So yeah, it gives us all the commands that we can use. So first thing first is that you need to use Netlify login so that it can log into your account, and for that it will open the browser for you and you have to log in your account. I think since I already installed this, so I am already logged in, so I am not going to do that step, but I will go with Netlify init, which will initialize Netlify project here. So connect this with to an existing Netlify directory, Netlify site. Nope. Create and configure a new site. Yes, because I want to create a new site. So in my Netlify, this is my team, and site name. So I'm going to leave this blank so that Netlify generates its own domain and the link for me, and that will be random. So select that, nothing here, and create it. So yeah, we have these links here. We can see that, but let's first finish the setup. Your build commands. So by default, it's going to be read build, and yeah, that is exactly what we want. Deploy to the current directory dist. So yeah, that will be dist, and no Netlify detected. Would you like one? Just simply yes. And which means that we don't need to make any changes here to keep things simple. We have it. So let's go back and let me go to netlify.com and log in here. And let's see what we have it. So if I move back, we have, so you can see here site created, and the URL is this adorable starlights. If I open this, I can see Hello Vite, and this is perfectly working. Everything is working. And if I go back to my Netlify, I can see that here adorable lights, and you can see last published was 11/21. So yeah, which means that we have successfully deployed our application to Netlify, and this is very simple as compared to GitHub, using GitHub Actions and GitHub Pages. So yeah, our website is live, and here it is. If you want, you can also change the domain for this one, and for that you need to go to the domain settings and add your domain here. But that's out of the scope of this, so we are not gonna do any changes here. And if I go to site settings, and then if I go for build and deploy, you can see current repository. This is the repository that we have, this one. And another thing is build command is vite build, publish directory is dist, and or production branch is main. Now another good thing is, if I make any changes here, if I push any, let me zoom this a bit, if I push anything to my GitHub repository to vite-netlify, it will automatically run GitHub Actions for me, and it will update this for me. So which means that I do not need to manually update this, just like we had in GitHub Actions. So every time we make any changes, the GitHub Actions runs and it updates our website for us. So similarly in Netlify as well, it will update us. It will update it. So yeah, that is how we can deploy our application to Netlify. We can deploy our Vite application to Netlify. With that, let's move on to Vercel, and let's see how can we deploy our Vercel our project to Vercel. All right, again, another new repository and another new project that is static JavaScript. So I am again going to repeat those same steps, that is git init and then commit this and then push this code. So this will be initial commit. I am fast forwarding this because we already just did this twice. So let me create the project. So Vite Vercel and create the repository, and then copy this and then push the code. So git push origin main. All right, we just pushed the code, and if I refresh this, we have the code here. So with that, what we need to do is for the previous Netlify example, we installed Netlify, that was netlify-CLI, but for this I am going to install Vercel, and that is like this, Netlify npm install Vercel-g, and I think I have already installed this, but let's try this again, and probably this will not work because I have to do this with sudo, but let's see if this is installed or does this work. Okay, so this is not working, and that is because I have to give sudo here. So I think I already have installed this, but let me just do this again. So I will add my password here, and let me then fast forward the video. All right, now what we need to do next is we just simply do sudo Vercel and set up and deploy. Yes, we have to deploy this. So this is the path, code /vite-vercel, and yes, this is why. And then which scope do you want to deploy it to? Hotec dev. Going to an existing project? Nope, I want a new project. What's your what's your project name? Vite Vercel. And in which directory is your code located? So this is the current directory, so I will not add anything here. Setting up your project. All right, want to modify these settings? Nope, because these settings looks pretty good because output directory is dist. Yep. Install commands, npm install, deployment vite dash pod and build command vite build. So yeah, all things look good. No. All right, it created this git ignore and as well as this Vercel, and we have the production here, and let's click on this, open this, and we can see our web page. So with that, let me go to Vercel and let's see if we have our website there. So Vercel, and then here we have it. So this is the website. If I go back and here we can see the website, Vite Vercel. If I click on this, and here this is, if I go back, this is the link, Vite Vercel, and here to confirm this, we have v-vercel-log.vercel.app, and this is the same link, vite-vercel.log-vercel.app. So yeah, that is the same thing, and this was created 1 minute ago by me. So that is how to deploy your website to Vercel, and pretty simple, pretty easy, and very straightforward. So that was about deployment. Alright, so by now we have covered a lot of things that includes how to start your server, how to make your projects, and what exactly is Vite, and how to deploy your projects, and a lot of many things. But there is one other important thing, that is configuration. So we are going to talk about how to configure your Vite project. I have again made a new project, and first thing first, I am going to install all the dependencies. And again, this is a static JavaScript project, and I am using that project. I chose that project to make things simple. So no React.js, Vue.js, etc. So I installed my packages, and if I do npm, not npm install, if I do npm dev, it starts the server for me, and yeah, everything is working. So I clear this, and I stop the server and clear this. All right. So to add configuration, what you need to do is you need to create a new file, and with the name vite.config.js, and maybe I can zoom in, and yeah, so let me size some windows. Okay, so this is the empty file, and this is the configuration file, and all the configurations should be in this file. So what we need to do here is the very simple and the most basic config should be export, default, and quotes. And that is it, not quotes, the tags, brackets. And if I save this, and if I do npm run dev, everything works. And this is technically, this is similar to not having this file at all, because there is no configuration at all right now. And if we move back to the deployment, specifically the GitHub deployment using GitHub pages, we talked about base, and we talked about how to deploy our project when the path is not just the username.github.io, but username.github.io/repository name. So in that case, what we did was we added a base URL, we added base. So in that case, if you remember, we used something that is known as define config. So, but if in case you do not want to go with that, and I am going to also talk about that, why we use that there, what is the difference between that and this one, the basic one. So we can also use base. For example, I add base and I do Vite and save this, and then clear the console, and then again do npm run dev. So notice here we have localhost 5173 and then Vite. So Vite is now the base path, and that is because we changed the base. So which means that it works. It works exactly the same way, but we'll stop the server, clear the screen, close this, and all right. So close this and this, and I'm going to remove this. And rather than this, what I will do is I will use import define config from Vite, and then export default define config and brackets, and then again brackets, and then here, if I type base, I can see Visual Studio Code giving me suggestions. So the reason the point of using define config, comparing this define config with the most basic config, which was export default and this. So writing it like this, this should be Vite. So writing it like this, writing it like this. This is, both of these does the similar job. The difference is in this basic, we do not get any integrations. So if I type base, nothing happens. This base is because we already declared it once. But in this case,
if I don't have the base and I type BAS, it gives me the base, and also helps me with what exactly is the base. So it is base public path when served in deployment and development or production, and then it can be a string or it can be undefined. So if I now again do quotes and then Vite, save this, and then again npm run dev, I can see 5173/Vite. So stop this server, clear the screen, and minimize this. So which means that the difference here is with defined config, things get pretty much easy. Things get super easy because we have the integrations giving us suggestions. All right, so which means that in this case, in this tutorial we are going to use the defined config, but feel free to go with the other basic configuration as well. It's totally up to you. All right, so we already discussed base, and base is something that you already know. And if in case you have skipped that part and you're just watching this video for configuration, so base is basically for if in case you do not want your file, your project to be hosted on the main on the home page, which means like localhost 3000 or localhost 5173, and you want it to be hosted on, let's say, localhost 3000/Vite. So in that case, the base should be Vite. Okay, so that is the base. Now, with that, maybe you want to do some configuration, some specific things in your development server. So let's say you want your project to be, if it is going in development, if it is going to in production, then you want the base to be Vite. But if it is in development and in dev mode, you do not want the base path. So you can also do that, and for that, what we can do here is I will remove this, and then what I am going to do here is I will again make this more like a function, and then here this accepts an argument, and a single argument, which is basically an object, and then that object has consists of three properties: command, mode, and SSR build. Now all of these consist in one argument, but I destructured that here in this object, so we can get all of these here. So if I do console log command, mode, SSR build, so let's see what it gives, and then I can talk about what exactly it is and how to use. And this will not work. So if I do npm run dev, this will probably not work. Yes, this will not work, and that is because now we converted this into a function, and it must always return something. So what we can do is we can just, for now, we can return an empty object, and then clear the screen, and then again npm run dev, and this should work now. So let's open this, and with that we have this, and let's see what do we have in, if I go to inspect, and maybe I can dock it or attach it to the bottom, and then go to console, refresh this. Nothing happens here. That is because this is not going to appear on the website. This is going to appear here in the terminal, and that is because this is the configuration. This is not the main.js that appears or that is rendered on in the browser. So what we have here: command, mode, SSR build. So the command is serve, mode is development, and SSR build is fast. So what does serve mean? So serve stands for dev mode or development server, and build stands for production. So if this command is serve, so that means that this is dev mode, and if this is build, then that means that this is production. Maybe we can check that as well, but that is the general idea. So the mode is for now development, and that makes sense. If this is if we change this and go to production, so this will change. And then SSR build stands for server side rendering, and as of now in version 3, this is an experimental property. So with that, let's drop the server. Let's see what happens when I do npm run build. And do we have anything here? Yes. So now you can see this is build, command turns into build, and mode turns into production, and SSR again is fast. And let's see now npm run preview what we get here. Again, serve, because that is now again in a development mode. We are just trying to see the development. So we have the production version, right, and we're just doing the preview. So that is why this is serve, because we are in the dev mode. We are in the dev. and production because this is the production version, and then again SSR is false. So with that, now that you have the basic idea of these properties, what happens if I do, so what we can do about the base part, so let's say I can do is if not maybe command, if mode equals to, so what modes we have, one is so one mode that we have here is production and the other one is development. So what I want is, if this is in production, what I want is that base should be this should return with a base of /Vite. But if this is not, then we just simply do this. Now let's see what happens here. If I do npm run dev, what we get here, so localhost 5173. But if I stop the server and then npm run build and then npm run preview, now what we see here is this file. So if I click on this and open this, so now this is working. And again, this Vite logo is not working, and this is something that we have already fixed in the GitHub deployment when we were going for GitHub deployment. So we have already fixed that. But just to quickly let you know why is that happening and how to fix this. If you want to know why is that happening, you can refer back to the GitHub deployment section. But to fix this, we can just remove this Vite from here, and then npm run build and then npm run preview, and this should work now if I refresh this. Yeah, so again, if you want to run more, why is this working this way and why not like this, you can refer back to the GitHub deployment section. So if I stop the server and if I do npm run dev, this is now not on the /Vite, this is on this path, and here everything is working. So with that mode and command etc, you can add some conditional conditions. So but I'm going to remove this. Maybe I should also remove this because we do not need this, and also remove this and save this. Let me now try npm run dev if just to make sure everything works fine, and yes, everything works fine. And that's it. So yeah, that is about conditional config, and based on these settings or based on these modes, you can do conditional things. All right, the next thing is async config. So you can use async config, for example, calling a third-party API to get some data that can be used in configuration. And how exactly to do that? So that is what you can do here is you can make this function async. So basically you pass the function in this define config, and then here you destructure this again, so that is command and mode, and then here you do const data equals to await, and then what some async function that you have already defined somewhere. So you get that, and then based on that you return other information and then use this data. So you can also this is pretty much the same thing that we did before, like this command and mode and SSR build. So we did that, but we just made this function async, and that means that you can also have some async configuration here and make this configuration in async function. Make this function an async function. So if you have some third-party configuration, or you have to access third-party for configuration, you can also do that and simply make this function async by just adding async here and then using await here. You already, I am assuming you have you are familiar with async await concept. So with that, let me remove this again and this as well, and save this. All right, so to make things simple, because and also we do not need async at the moment, are these commands and modes. So with that, another thing, and by the way, there are a lot of configuration that you can check on the docs, in the docs of Vite.js, but in this tutorial I am going through few of the most important, essential, or the most used configuration to give you a good idea of how to get started with configuration, or how to do the basic configurations.
Alright, let's talk about how to load environment variables in our configuration file. So for example, if we need the files for some reason, so let's see how can we do that. For that, maybe first thing is we need to make an environment variable file r.env so that we have something to import. And here I can do v.dbname equals to dbname and not vite underscore name, dbname, and then vite underscore pass equals to db pass, and save this. Maybe I can do db just the name, and then go back here. And for that, to load them, we need an import to import something that is load env. And then here we need to again convert this to a function. So this function, and we need two things here. That is maybe not two things, one, and that is mode, but let's still import command in mode, and this should be in brackets, these brackets, because we are destructuring them. And then here const env equals to load env, and then mode, and then process.cwd. So the cwd method returns the current working directory of the node process. So this means that this, in this case, it's returning this directory. And then we have empty quotes. That third parameter, if we set that to empty quotes, this means that to load all the environment variables regardless of vite underscore prefix. So this means that we will get every a variable, environment variable, and you can see that in a few seconds. So with that, let me do console.log and then env, and then maybe here I can do return and then empty. So let's see what we get here. npm run dev, and oops, we have an unexpected error, and let's see why we have that. The path argument must be of a type string. So yeah, this should be like this, and let's see it again. So yeah, this worked now, and let's see what we have here. So you can see that we have everything here, and if I scroll to the top, we will be able to see what we're looking for. That is vite underscore name, vite underscore pass. So let's see if I can just access vite name and pass by just doing this, and let's try again. I don't know if this will work, but let's see. And yep, this works. So this is for the prefix. So if I type this, this means that we only get all the variables that start with vite. So that is how you can access that, and then you can use them here. So that is for the environment variables. And then let's talk about some of the options. And for the options, we do not need to have this object. We can again convert this to a simple object. We don't need the function. And then here we already talked about the function. Let's talk about, so another important one, or a simple one, is, so if you have noticed, whenever we do something here, it clears the screen. So for example, if I save this and if I clear the console, if I run npm run dev, you see the screen is cleared and we get this. But if let's say if I do not want this, although it's technically it's not cleared, if I scroll to the top, I can see all the data here. But let's say I do not want that. So what I can do here is I can do clear screen equals to false. This is true by default. So if I do clear screen false and then stop the server, and let me resize this npm run dev, and now you can see this is not cleared. And if I make a small change here and save this, you can see nothing changed here. I mean, the previous log is still available on the screen. So that is a very small property. That is a very simple property that you can use. And then apart from that, in the environment variable, the default prefix is vite underscore. That is what is expected. But if you want, you can also change that. So let's say I want this to be, rather than vite, I want this to be app, and for this one as well app. But for that, we need to configure that in vite.config. And this is env prefix, and then here I can do app underscore and save this. So now we will have app underscore name and app underscore pass. And let's also try this. So I go here and then I type console.log import.meta.env. So that is how you can import environment variables. We already talked about this before. So I save this and I go back, I refresh this. This is not the server. The server should be 5173. So
5173, and I go to the inspect and go to console and resize this, refresh this, and then here you can see app underscore name and app underscore pass. So this works now. All right, so that is for so that is to change the environment variable prefix. Now make sure that you do not set it to this, because that again we might return an error, and also this means that you will be expecting a lot of unexpected issues. So we do not need this. So let's get back to app underscore. And then next thing is source map. So if you are working with let's say SCSS, then when you load your website and when it appears on your browser, it's the browser do not understand SCSS or SAS or any other preprocessor. It you need to use something to convert all of your code to CSS, and then that CSS is loaded here. But sometimes that CSS in the arguments that CSS might be a minified version. So to make it easy for yourself to debug the issue, so what you can do is you can do CSS, and then in CSS you can do dev source map, and you can turn this to true. So this means that you will have the source map if you want to enable the source map property. If you do not know about the source maps, basically the browser can map CSS generated by a preprocessor such as SAS back to the source file. So it means that you will be able to trace that specific property back to its CSS, SCSS SAS version. So that is the property, that is the functionality of source map. So if you enable this, you will be able to go back to that SAS or SCSS file and exactly get that line number or the property in SCSS or SAS in the browser. So that is for the source map. But for now, since we are not using this, so let me skip this or maybe comment this. And then another thing is, if let's say I want is, so there are two things. One is the server and one is the preview. So the server is when let me show you this. So if I do server, and then if I want to, let's say, change the port number, if I do port 3000, and then if I do preview and then port 8080 and save this, I need a comma here, save this, and then refresh this, clear the screen, and npm run build, I make the build, and then npm run preview. So let's see what we get here. We get 8080, that is for this one. Now so we get the 8080, that is for the preview, and for the preview we already set the port to 8080. So if I stop this and if I now do npm run dev, what we get here? We get 3000. So what do you understand from this? The understanding here is that this server has a port that is set to 3000, and then we have preview which has a port of 8080. So this means that whenever we execute npm run dev, it will use this port, and whenever we do npm run preview, it will use this port. Now it may be possible that a port is already taken by something else, and in that case what it will do is it will take the next available port in that whatever that is. So that will be automatically detected and it will take it. But let's say you do not want that and you want it to be if that port is taken, so just close the app. So what you can do here is you can add strict port equals to true. So if you do this, this means that if this 8080 is not available, so do not search for the next port and just exit, close the project, close the server. So yeah, that is what it means. So maybe what I can do is I can start another server in the background, and then we can try this again. All right, I started another server with the port 3000, and let's see what happens here. So if I do npm run dev, we can see now 3001 started because 3000 is already taken. But if I do strict port equals to true and save this and stop the server here, this might take a time, so maybe I can stop this and
stop this, and this is not working. So let me just open a new terminal and then let's try this. So if I set this to true, save this, and npm run dev, you can see what we get here. Port 3000 is already in use. But if I comment this, which means correct port is equals to true, save this, and then try npm run dev, now we have port 3000 is in use, trying another one, and then 3001. So we get 3001. All right. So that is how you can strict the port number. If you want, you can leave it, and by default it's false, so which means that it will get the next port number. And with that, in other thing is the log level. So let's say in server, if I do not in server, this is not a server preview specific command, so this is general command. So if I do log level and turn this to silent and save this, and let's say I set this to true as well, stop this. So let me save this, and then let's try something here. So npm run dev, and let me maybe stop pause this because I was expecting it did not work. So let's do npm run dev, and we do not get anything here. But what exactly is happening? So if I try to open my browser, and if I do localhost 3001, it is working, but we do not get anything here. That is because the log level is set to silent. So basically you can choose what messages to see in the logs by using log level, which has 4 options that are info, warn, error, and silent, out of which the default is info. If you set it to warn, you will get the warning messages. If you set it to error, you will get the error messages. And if you set it to silent, so you will not get any kind of messages. And then for now, let's set it back to info, or we can comment this as well. But with that, you can also change the environment directory as well by using env directory, this one. And we can maybe set it to the env, and setting the path to that folder where you have environment variable. So what I mean by that is, let's say we have this environment variable here, but maybe I can make a new folder here and name this the env, and then again here make another folder .env, copy all of this, paste this here, and then type here new and new. So now we have 2 environment variables. One is this and one is this. I need to add a comma here. So what do you think? Which app name and password will be loaded? This one or this one? So let's see that. If I go back here, and since we already have this here, and in Vite config.js, we set environment directory to the env, which is this one, and then in that we have env. So let's see what we get. If I go to console, and if I refresh this should be, if I do npm run dev, npm run dev, and then go here, refresh this. Now you can see db name new, db pass new. So this means that when we set the env, so it takes the high priority, and whatever values we have, that will be used, and all of the environment variables will be taken from this one. Let's also try app underscore test equals to test, and let's see if this is used. So if I refresh this, and if I see, we also do not get that here, because now this means that only the environment variables that are presented in this file will be taken. So by default, this is the root folder, so which means that anything that is here, that works. So I will comment this with the env, and yeah. All right. Another thing that we can do here is, let's say I am fed up of running development npm run dev, and then going to my console, or going to my browser, and then typing the URL. So what I can do here is, I can in the server or in the preview. So what I can do here is, I can do open, and then type index.html, and save this. So now in this case, if I again do npm run dev, it will automatically open or start the server and open the browser for me. So it already opened, and it opened in this tab which is not in the preview. So maybe I can try this again, and maybe it shows up here on the screen. So if I again do this, and yep, you can see this here, it automatically switch the focus to the Chrome browser and to that specific tab. So, and you can also set this here as well. You can set the open here as well with index.html or whatever file you want to use. And with that, those are the basic commands for, those are the basic configurations for Vite.js. There are many other configurations which I did not cover. So if in case you are interested in those, you can visit vitejs.dev and then go to config, and then here you can find all of the configurations. So with that, again, I just covered maybe just 10% of these or 15% of these commands. So with that, that is it for this section. Alright, so that is it for this Vite tutorial. I hope you liked the video. If you do so, please make sure to follow me on other social platforms such as Twitter and Instagram, and give this video a thumbs up, and please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know what would you want to learn next, or what is something that is missing in this tutorial and you want me to cover that as well. So hope to see you again in the next video.